Welcome to Beauty and the Biz. Discover how to grow your practice with effective cosmetic patient attraction, conversion, and retention advice from author, speaker, trainer, and cosmetic practice business and marketing coach, Catherine Maley, MBA.
Hello, and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we learn the business and marketing side of cosmetic practices. So I'm Catherine Maley, your host and author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying. And today we have a really special guest, Dr. David Sieber, and he is an up-and-coming board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeon in San Francisco. And he's been in practice now for over 4 years, and I'm really excited to get his perspective on things because he hasn't been around for 20 years. He's one of the new guys. So he's a graduate of Loyola University Strick School of Medicine. He did a 5-year residency in general surgery at Loyola University Medical Center. He then did a 3-year residency in plastic and reconstructive surgery. And then he did a 1-year aesthetic surgery fellowship at University of Texas Southwestern program in Dallas. Now, Dr. Sieber received an award for Best Research Paper in 2015 by the Aesthetic Surgery Journal Editorial Board. And that's a really big deal because that's a tough group. He serves on several AACS committees, and he's also a peer reviewer for both the Journal of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery as well as the Aesthetic Surgery Journal. And what I really like is Dr. Sieber gives back. He has a special interest in treating underserved patients, and he's provided medical care to patients in Nepal, Peru, and Armenia. So welcome to the show, Dr. Sieber.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. So here are a couple things. Before we get started, when I was doing some research on you, I realized we have some things in common. I didn't realize you were from Chicago, and I'm from Chicago. Yeah? But
what part?
Why don't you have the Dick Buckus accent like I do?
You should hear my mom. She's like, your father and I are going to Costco.
Yeah. My family says, and we're going, and it's that god awful, that long A that's really horrendous. I can't lose it. I've been gone for 40 years or something. I'm still talking like Dick Buckus. Actually, I can't even say Dick Buckus anymore because nobody even knows who he is. For all of those who don't know, it's he's a very famous football player from the Bears.
Yeah.
Funny. Yeah. And you know what else is really interesting? Your office is at 450 Sutter Street, right?
Yep.
The top floor.
Yep.
Right? My very first client, when I became a consultant to plastic surgeons, my very first client was on the top floor, I believe, in your space, or actually next door. And the first thing I did was moved his coordinator to an office with that incredible, breathtaking view of the world.
Oh, yeah.
Because wherever the money is being discussed, you have to have some ambiance. Right. And the patients would walk in and they knew darn well, oh boy, this isn't going to be cheap. It stopped them a lot from negotiating because we had it set up where this is a first class, first rate place, and we're not here to discount. So isn't that interesting what a small world this is?
It's a very small world.
Dear Lord. All right. So like you from Chicago, I assume you moved out here for the weather?
Yeah, for the weather. Yeah. So I trained in Chicago and then in Minneapolis, and it was freezing cold there. So we wanted to go somewhere warmer that wasn't in the South. So we ended up out in California and felt like the Bay Area was a better fit than somewhere like Los Angeles or somewhere else in California.
For sure. All right. So tell me, we're here to talk about, the title this time is called Private Practice COVID-19 Survival. We've been under shelter in place longer than anybody else, I believe, on California.
Yeah.
We went under way early. I feel like I am so out of sorts, and it just never ends. I hear now it goes until June 1st, if all goes well. So what are you hearing and what's going on in your end? Because I'm in Sausalito, which is right outside the city. So is it any different where you are?
No, so the mayor here, London Breed, made an announcement yesterday, basically saying that the shelter in place was going to continue until, she said, through May. And we'll get into this later, but I was on the phone today with the Office of Public Health for San Francisco today, and the date that they'd given me was May 31st. But the thing both from London as well as from Gavin Newsom is neither one of them seems to have finite end date to this.
Isn't this crazy? I have been through 2 recessions, an earthquake in San Francisco, 2 blackouts last summer. Were you involved in those blackouts? That was crazy too.
No, luckily we weren't affected at all.
Oh, Lord. And then I think, and now we have this, like, what the heck is going on? All right. And you know what else I realized? Even when we go back, you're in a building that's not helping because I remember standing at those elevators with hundreds of people, waiting for the elevator. How are they going to handle that?
I don't even know. If you go to somewhere to get food, they have those X's that mark 6 feet apart. I went into the office on Saturday to pick up my mail, and it was, the security guards there, and the building was mostly empty, especially for a Saturday. So I imagine they're going to have to put something to promote the social distancing until we can kind of loosen up on that.
And maybe like only 2 people in the elevator or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could be waiting for an elevator sometimes for 10, 15 minutes, and then you can get in sometimes, and there's literally nowhere to stand.
Dear Lord. Okay. Well, it's another challenge. So where are you at with all of this? Did you have to lay off staff? What happened to you?
So I office share with another plastic surgeon. So there's the two of us. We have one shared employer, front office person is shared, and then we each have our own patient care coordinator. So I really only have one of my own full-time employees, and she's still working full-time. She does a great job, and she's worth paying the money during this time. I do have some friends who have huge practices that did have to lay some people off, but most of my friends around the country who have small to medium-sized practices, if they like their employees, still kept them on and paid them.
Now is the perfect time to keep your overhead down. So
right.
Good for you. I don't know if you did that on purpose or just because you're still growing, but a lot of these practices have med spas because we all were forced. Surgeons had to open up med spas, and that created 20 to 30 more staff, a whole bunch of laser payments. It just never ends. And I think, oh my God, what are they going to do with all these people?
No, and I was, right before all this happened, I was in the process of getting a loan from the bank. I was going to expand my office. I was going to move to a different space where I could have more space to have injectors and do more things. And I'm fortunate that this, I hadn't taken the money and this all kind of happened, and that can kind of, once we get this sorted out, I can go back and do it. But I didn't have to make big payments on loans or anything through all this.
For sure. So you haven't invested in the lasers?
I have one laser I make payments on, and that's it.
Actually,
I have two devices. I have a Cyton laser, and then I have a Vaser, which is it's a type of light detector. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Are you doing high definition?
I do. Yeah.
The other laser that you got, is it for facial rejuvenation, laser hair removal? What was it for?
So, at full disclosure, I do some speaking for the company. So I do, I love the laser even regardless of the fact that I'm probably a little bit biased. But the great thing about the Cyton is you have everything you need on a single platform. So it's a single platform. I have a full field erbium for basically getting rid of any type of wrinkle. I have a fractionated erbium, which is good for scars and some facial rejuvenation. I have a BBL, which is Cyton's brand of IPL, which is really good for photofacials, getting rid of sun damage, rosacea. I can do hair removal with it. I can treat acne with it. And then I also have their 1064 laser too, which is good for some vascular lesions.
Good for you for getting one multi-purpose platform. It's insane now. It's insane, all the lasers. I think I've consulted a lot on this, and what happens is somehow the doctor ends up at some kind of conference or God knows what, and he has now ordered like one for laser hair removal, one for something else. And I always say, if you're brand new, go for the biggest procedure possible that could cover, like, what's the biggest thing women, especially women, have a problem with, and it's typically skin rejuvenation kind of stuff. But don't start laser hair removal that everybody and their brother has.
No.
And then don't get the hair transplant thing either. Stick to something that most women have a problem with. And it's usually spots and dots and, wrinkles. So
yeah. And the interesting thing is my practice originally started in Marin. I was there for about a year and then moved into the city. And my practice, I was really able to build my practice using my Cyton machine. And the reason for that is because my wife and I don't know anyone here. We don't have any family. We don't have any friends when we first moved here. So I needed to be able to do a procedure that people didn't really need to trust me for, but they would still come in and be able to get good results. So I bought this Cyton where I could do halo and BBLs on patients. Not a lot of downtime, great results. It's a way that they can start getting these referrals. Oh, I went to Dr. Sieber. He had a good bedside manner. I loved the treatment he did. And that's really how I built my practice, was by doing these non-surgical procedures.
I did not realize you were over here. Where were you?
I was in the Golden Gate Urgent Care right across from In-N-Out.
Oh my God. You need to market more.
Oh no, I'm done now.
But I definitely have had a few halos, and it's good. It'll give you a good result. Oh God, that's so interesting. I don't know how we haven't met before. We are like in the same circles.
I know.
So, yeah. All right. So let me see. What else can we talk about? Let me just ask you this. What's your biggest concern when it's a restart? It's time. When we finally restart, what are you worried about?
I don't know that I have one main concern, because there's really so many moving parts. So recently, this shelter in place was extended until the beginning of May. But at the same time, they've now allowed elective surgeries. But the problem is there's not really any guidance from any of the societies. The American Society doesn't have any guidance. The American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery doesn't have any guidance. The governor doesn't have any guidance. The mayor hasn't had any guidance. So today I called the Office of Public Health and I asked to talk to the head physician there for some guidance. Because I said, you know what, there's all these different rules. They seem to kind of like contradict each other. I don't really understand at this point what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do. And they said, well, you can do elective surgeries. That mandate, which was put into place, I think on March 16th or 18th until April 7th, he said that expired April 7th. So after April 7th, we should have been able to do elective surgeries, but I don't think anyone realized that. And he says, but because of the shelter in place, you still need to shelter in place. So I said, well, this doesn't make any sense because one thing says sheltering in place, the other one says that I can start doing surgeries. So like, which is it? And he said that the Office of Health is separate from the city and the mayor. So they have different legislative boards, they make different rules. So the health orders are the ones that really apply more to our practices. But as long as we're still able to do social distancing, if you're, an older patient, someone with pre-existing conditions who maybe shouldn't be out of the house, you probably shouldn't be doing anything. So then the whole argument came out, well, can I start operating or is it okay to start seeing patients? So I talked to all of my colleagues who I could in the area and kind of see what people are doing. And it seems like most people are going to start operating, but not going to offer non-surgical procedures. Like I'm not going to see anyone for just a routine follow-up who's doing well or might have a little thing that can wait until the shelter in place is done. So I think I'm going to start operating because according to the laws I can, but I'm not going to see anyone for non-surgical stuff yet.
Where are you going to operate?
So there's two places I operate. The office that I'm an officer with has a surgery center attached to it, and they're opening on the 4th to start doing elective cases again. And then there's another center in my building that also is going to open for elective cases.
And they're going to open for elective cosmetic because a lot of them are still saying you're like the cosmetic is on the bottom of the priority list.
So so the real issue is, and I talked to another plastic surgeon in the peninsula last night about it, is he said, well, what's the difference between someone who's had a hernia for 5 years that's not causing any problems, who now can have it electively fixed, versus a young woman who's had kids and wants to have a breast augmentation? He goes, is there a difference between the two? And then when I thought about it, I thought, I don't know, there probably isn't much of a difference between the two. I mean, one's just making a person feel better, one's helping a hernia, but neither one of them is really urgent.
Mm-hmm. Do you use their staff, their surgical staff?
Their staff, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was just on a webinar right before this one, and they were saying even the CDC didn't give really good guidance about how protected does everybody need to be.
Nobody is. And
right?
I think that's because no one knows. And, today I called the mayor's office. I talked to the Office of Public Health 2 or 3 times, and it's all the same thing. Like no one really knows how to advise people. It's all just kind of, well, here's what this person said, and here's what this person said, but you need to kind of like figure out what works for you and if you're okay doing that.
My biggest concern for surgeons is you guys have always been a target for the law firm, the laws,
sure.
Law, and just cover your butt as much as humanly possible. I would be having that patient sign COVID-19. I'm aware of the problem. You are held not responsible for anything. I don't know if it holds up or not, but at the moment, I can see that going sideways on the road,
And the good news for me that makes me feel a little bit better is I have antibodies to it. So I must have gotten it last month sometime. I was at a large national meeting where I had some friends who tested positive, and I had some kind of symptoms. I was real tired. I didn't really have a cough. I had a little bit of a sore throat, and then I started spiking fevers. And then I lost my smell and my taste, which I know is kind of pathognomonic for having COVID. So I went and had my antibodies. I had a test for antibodies last week ago, and I got my results on Saturday saying that I was positive. So, which is good. I mean, we still don't really know what that means, and I know a lot of the tests aren't perfect yet. But based on what we know about the other coronaviruses that we've had in humans, it should. I mean, I should have some sort of immunity for at least a year or two. So,
for sure.
Which is great.
Did your wife get it too?
She got tested but didn't have the antibodies, which is kind of surprising because we've been stuck in the same house for 2 months now. So I don't know if it was an error in the test or if she just actually doesn't have the antibodies.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's crazy. Is there anything you're gonna start doing now when you go back?
Yeah, so we're gonna treat it just like we were if we were at a restaurant or getting food. I mean, everyone's gonna have masks on all the time. The surgery centers that I go to, we do have a waiver that we basically put together about COVID and the risks and all this other stuff. I mean, the truth behind it is it would be almost impossible to prove that you got it somewhere because we interact with people everywhere. I mean, who's to say that we couldn't have gotten it on the elevator on the way down from surgery? Then at one of the facilities I work at, the entire staff had to be tested to make sure that no one actually has the virus when they come back to work.
I'm not totally up on the testing. I've been listening to the White House and Como, and they have those new like Q-tip swabs.
Yep.
They can test quickly. Do we have that out here in California? I don't know if we have that yet.
Yeah, we do. So the city of San Francisco has free testing for anyone who has symptoms. I'm not sure where you go and get the testing because I haven't looked into it, but we do have rapid testing for the actual active infection. The antibody testing is it's kind of new. It's become more widely available in the last week or two. And that really is, we need a lot of information from that because it's going to tell us who has immunity to it.
Huh. Is there anything you're going to stop doing when you restart?
Well, the things that I'm like kind of not concerned about, but I'm confused about how I'm going to do it are like a lot of the injectables.
Right.
So people come in and they have masks on the whole time. How are you going to inject someone's lips with the mask on, And I think a lot of it's going to vary just on patient comfort too, what people are comfortable with. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable being around whoever just because I know I have those antibodies. But, everyone's so different. I mean, even now people still want to come in and get stuff done and they don't seem to be bothered at all by any of this, probably because the number of cases and deaths here in San Francisco compared to somewhere like New York are so drastically different.
Do you feel like your patients, you don't know, but have you surveyed them at all? And do you have different demographics? I know you have a younger demographic just because you're younger,
Yeah.
so you would attract a younger demographic may feel differently about COVID-19 than
Right.
an older patient. Do you have a feel for the majority of your patients? Are they comfortable? Are they afraid?
No, I think the majority of mine are comfortable. I mean, where I live in Valhalla, it's a lot of like young professionals in their late 20s, early 30s, 40s, which is kind of the demographic of my patients. And people around here are still out doing stuff and getting together, and they don't seem to really, I mean, they're following the guidelines to a degree, but I think it's something that's kind of in the back of their mind and not really something that they're actively concerned about.
Well, if you want my 2 cents, I'll just give it to you. And take it for what it's worth, everybody. But it seems to me, if there's any chance you could come up with some in-house procedures that are local, done under local, done in-house, you don't have to deal with surgery centers and all of that. Like I happen to know a surgeon, just anecdotally, there was a surgeon, and I won't say who it was, but he was getting a divorce, and he had 2 very little kids that he needed to take care of. And he said, "How am I going to be a plastic surgeon and take care of kids?" He got a nanny, and he would go into his office, and he would do little eyelid removal, and he called it a cute name. It had a really cute name that I can't remember now, and he was making like, let's say, but he was in the Midwest. It was low, like $2,500. Like here, we would probably charge $4,000, and they were done very quickly, no risk, little downtime, no scarring. And he said that saved his practice. So I'm just saying, if somebody thinks that's a good idea, why not pick a couple procedures you could do in-house and try to live off of that for right now? Is that possible?
Yeah, there's kind of. I mean, with what I do, there's a limited number of procedures that can be done, like truly done well under local. I see a lot of patients who come to me and they say, "Oh, I saw this other doctor who's going to do my liposuction under local," or "I had liposuction done under local, but it seems like they missed a bunch of the fat." Because there's really a limit in what you're able to do with those types of procedures. But upper eyelids, of course, you can do those under local. But like doing I know people that do breast augmentations under local, but I don't think it's a great idea.
Well, but then what are you going to do if you're not going to do non-surgical and you're just going to do surgical?
Yep.
And you're going to hope that everyone comes back? I personally have a feeling that there's a rush that's going to come back. The usual people, like I'm the usual suspect, but I'll just zip by and get some more of my Botox and filler like always, and maybe a little laser stuff, although even that's kind of iffy right now because of the lasers and all of that. So, but I don't know how many will come back for real, like the masses.
Right.
Will the masses come back? I don't know.
Well, like I had 27 patients scheduled on Monday to come see me, and they were confirmed and ready to see me, and I rescheduled all of them. And a lot of these people have been rescheduled. This will be the 3rd time I've rescheduled them. And I think, I saw this one quote that at the end of 8 weeks, we're going to lose 88% of the world's blondes. We've been in quarantine long enough now where if you had Botox right at the beginning of it, it's all worn off by now. So I think people are really itching to get back in their beauty routines to do these things. The one, going back to what we were talking about a second ago, the one procedure that does infer a little bit more risk of rhinoplasty, because, and I guess the Rhinoplasty Society has been kind of discussing this a lot about how to handle that. Talked to one of my mentors in Texas about like the intubation process. And basically what they're doing at his surgery center is it's going to be only the anesthesiologist and the patient in the room during intubation. The anesthesiologist wears a special mask, the intubated patient And then all operating rooms circulate the air within a certain amount of time, whether that's 10 minutes or 20 minutes. So then basically no one can enter the room until all the air has been recirculated, and then you can go in and start the procedure. So once the patient's intubated, I mean, it's almost no risk of you getting anything.
Will there be a time limit on this, how long it takes to do a surgery, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, the normal kind of safe window is less than 6 hours. There's been a lot of studies showing that if you do cases over 6 hours, you increase your risk of, your temperature goes down, you increase your risk of complications. So I always try to do cases that are shorter than that. But I don't think because of this new stuff, there's going to be new restrictions on time limits per se.
Okay. So let's go to my favorite topic, marketing. So you've done a really good job, and you're one of the younger guys, so you had to come in and market differently than the good old days. When you did your fellowship, did you learn about business and marketing during your fellowship, or how did you figure out how you were going to enter this marketplace?
That's a good question. So my dad is a CPA, so he does a lot of my accounting. He has his master's in business, and he thinks it's amazing that I went through all these years of training, like 13 years, and we didn't get a single course, not a single hour on business or marketing. Because I sit here now as a small business owner, yet I've never received any formal training on how to run a small business,
That's why there are people like me, because while you were in that school, I was in business school trying to figure this out for you.
So as far as marketing goes, what I've learned, a lot of it's just been research. I like to research things and kind of look into stuff. I'm very data driven. So what I did is I did a lot of research. And not only did I do research locally, but I talked to a lot of my friends and colleagues nationally. And what I found is that in different markets, different things work better. So for instance, here, a lot of people use Yelp in California. I have a friend in New York, and I asked him if Yelp is good for him out there. And he said, Yelp is where my bad reviews go to die because no one looks at it. So a lot of it's just kind of trial and error. When I first started, is I would take some money, $500 or $1,000 a month, and I would put it in something. And then I would kind of see how it did. And then because I'm a numbers person, I would track everything. So I would say, I put $1 into this and I made $4, or I put $1 into this and I made $10. So every patient that comes in, I want to know where they're coming from. How did you hear about me? Oh, I heard, I found you on Google. So then I can at the end of the month look at all this stuff and say, oh, well, I spent this much on Google Ads, and then this is the ROI I got on that investment.
Would you say Google Ads is your number one marketing channel?
No, my number one has been my SEO. When I first started, I was kind of skeptical of SEO because I would work with these companies that would, when you first start, you don't have any money. So you have this little bit of money, you just finished fellowship or whatever, and you have a bunch of debt, and then you start practice, and these people say, oh, well, we want to spend $2,000 a month doing something that's going to help, and they say, oh, it's going to help you grow. So you try it, and it doesn't do anything. And when I first started, I had my website made by this one company, and they said, oh, we are great at SEO, we'll take care of this for you. So they made this beautiful website, and then time went by, and I wasn't really seeing anything, because like I said, I would ask all these patients, how did you hear about me? And they would say, oh, I heard about you on Yelp. Oh, I found you on, I heard about you through a friend. No one was ever saying, I found you on Google, breast augmentation, you popped up. So then I left that company and joined a new company. And they go, oh, well, we looked at all the backlinks that the other people made. There were some from Russia and China, and that was probably hurting you because of that. So I was with the second company for a while. And I noticed things were they grew a little bit and then kind of stopped. So I found this other individual who only does SEO through one of my friends, and he took over. And since he's done my SEO, I'm on usually the first 1 to 3 spots for most of the search terms I want to do. So
the secret to all this SEO, it really is, content is king. You have to, it's not a one and done thing. Your website is a living organism, and it's the gateway into you. And that's why I blog constantly. Do I want to blog? No. Do I want to, the podcast has been number one, the best thing I've done for the last 2 years. The content you get, the links you get from it, the content creation is the secret to that. So podcasting once a week, blogging once a week, email list every week. It's every week. I have a content machine, and that's how it runs. Anybody who says, "Oh, I'll fix your SEO," and then nothing happens, they don't have unless they're coming back and saying to you, I need content, or they're creating it because they understand you. But they should be asking you for videos, Q&A. They need you. That's the problem with marketing today. It needs you to market you. And now you have to be a surgeon and a marketer and a business manager. But you don't have to be an accountant because your father already is. So
that's right. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, really.
I got to pass on that.
So tell me about social media, because I realized If you weren't on board before, which you are, of course, but if you weren't, you better be now, because social media, that's all people can hear about and talk about. And just tell me your experience with social media. How much, what do you do there? How much time do you spend on it, and what's your ROI?
So that's a good question. So it's almost impossible to grow now on social media. The time of growth is basically done. I think it was last November, maybe a little bit before that, Instagram updated a lot of their policies and their rules, which made organic growth nearly impossible. So I'm up around, 54,000 followers or something. And I do that basically doing organic stuff, finding people, interacting with their accounts. You really have to have good content. I think if you don't have a social media account now, you need to make one. And the one thing I found, especially with my younger patients, the average age of my patients are probably the same demographics that I see on Instagram, which are about 25 to 45 years old and like 73 to 80% female. And what patients do is, if a patient's looking for breast augmentation, let's say, they're going to go into Google and they're going to say breast augmentation San Francisco. And then they're going to go and they're going to click on all these people's pages. And they're going to go to Google, they're going to look at all your Google reviews, they're going to go to Yelp, they're going to look at all your Yelp reviews, and then they're going to check to see if you have a social media account. And the social media account can either hurt you or help you. It's not really going to, it's not going to make a huge difference, but if they look at this account and it's pictures of your family, it's really disorganized, they're really low quality pictures, that's kind of a reflection of you and your practice. So what you really want is, you want your whole feed to be very polished, very professional looking. If you want to do stories, that's really where you put kind of more of the behind the scenes type stuff. But what patients do is they say, I found you on Google and then I went to your Instagram. Right. And the Instagram is basically another place where you have more before and after stuff you're doing. People will often come in and say, I saw this one person on Instagram, I thought that result was amazing. What did you do to them? And then you can tell them. As far as ROI on Instagram, it's hard to say because I don't spend any money on it. It's just time. So then it's like, well, what is my time worth? But I get a fair number of people from Instagram. And again, Instagram, like any other marketing tool, success is determined by geographical location. So my friends in Miami, Los Angeles, Las Vegas get a ton more people than I do from social media. And I think the reason for that is here in the Bay Area, and you can agree or disagree with me, I feel like it's very much like Chicago, like the Midwest, where people are politically liberal, but still very personally conservative. So a lot of my patients don't want to share their pictures online. They don't want me to use their before and afters on my website or on my social media. So it's very difficult for me to get patients who allow me to use this stuff. Somewhere like Beverly Hills, it's a badge of honor to be on someone's Instagram page. So they're much more willing to share these results, and then you get a lot more people because they're always looking through these feeds and stuff.
I will say that it could be a limiting belief on your part, only because you might be uncomfortable with it. Because you do have a younger group, and the whole world does selfies constantly. So the group you're going after, it's not like a facelift patient. Those I agree can be a little tougher, but still, it's just a numbers game. You just keep asking until you get some. But it's so important that I know you can't bribe anybody, but if you have a really good relationship with that patient, I just hope it's part of your protocol when they're ecstatic, and the timing is everything on that.
Oh yeah.
When they're ecstatic. Sue, would you do me a favor? You know how important reviews are in today's world, because you know what's funny about you? You've got 75 Yelp reviews, so you're not afraid to ask. So I mean, that's pretty amazing. Yelp works for you. I've been at conferences where the Yelp booth, like they should be wearing armored, material, because the guy is going to kill them, because Yelp doesn't work well if you're not good at what you're doing. And especially if your demographic is the younger patient, Yelp is a viable channel for people to go to say, who is this guy? Who is really this guy?
Right.
And you've done a great job there. So I think you could do it. Maybe you're just not asking on, why are they willing to help you but not give you the photos? That's unusual.
It's strange. Like I'll have let's say a 25-year-old I do a breast augmentation on, and she comes back for her 3-month visit, which is kind of usually when the implants are settled, they look more natural, they're really happy at 3 months. That's kind of usually when I ask them. And you wouldn't believe the number of women I have where I'll ask them, hey, just like you found me using my website, looking through my gallery and looking at my reviews, it's very helpful for you if you're able to tell others about your experience through a review. And they're always like, oh yeah, I'd love to write a review, no problem. And then I say, okay, well, I'll send you basically a link. You just need to click on a link and it'll take you right to the Google review page. It's super easy. They say, oh yeah, I'd love to fill it out, no problem. And then it never gets filled out. And then the other thing is with the photos is they just are embarrassed. I don't think they want people to know that they did anything. I'll even have some patients who I'll ask them and they say, I have this mole right here and I'm afraid someone's going to look in your gallery and they're going to be able to identify me. And I go, well, I'll Photoshop the mole out so it won't even be there. And they still won't do it.
Okay. Well, I did go to your photo gallery and it's very good. And I would just suggest keep working it.
Yeah.
I think
you just got to keep asking.
Yep. It's a numbers game for sure. And the thing about Instagram, and I'm sure you know this, in Canada, they took out the number of followers you have.
Right.
So they're going to do that here eventually too. And you know that it's very difficult to get any kind of organic reach with that. Everybody wants you to pay to play. And the thing that doctors don't understand is think about I hate to say before, let's say TV. You would buy a TV ad that was super expensive and you bought it because it would give you like a 1 million person reach. Well, think about that. Even then, how many calls did you get? 1 million people saw your ad. So how many calls did you get? I don't know, 1,000. 1 million went down to 1,000, and from that it went down to you got 50, sales out of it. It's a big numbers game. And in Instagram and Facebook, everyone thinks, well, I gave it $100. I mean, what do you want? They want money. They
all want money.
Pay to get that reach. You just do. And the content is everything. And I'm sorry that you guys now have to be content machines, but gosh, that's how we do
it. That's a whole nother thing. I mean, I think a lot of people who are used to developing really good content, like they kind of get burnt out with it. Like, I don't know if you know Christian Subio. He's a good friend of mine.
Really well, yeah.
He makes this fabulous stuff, but it's a lot of effort to do. And after a while, he'll just get kind of burned out from doing it. Yeah. And then he'll come back and do some more stuff. But it's a lot of work to always be creating all this content, unless you have a full-time marketing person that's doing it for you.
Well, what I tell everybody else is because it needs to be you, I would get a videographer for sure and get somebody walking around with you to kind of capture your day in the life of a plastic surgeon. And that is your content. It's the everyday, all day long, because you're right. It never ends. The content never ends. He is so funny. I think he's hysterical. He's a riot. However, he and I have discussed this. Where's the money? He's like Steven Spielberg, for God's sakes. I mean, the guy is amazing. He's like the best. I think he should be a video, production person or something. He's really, really good. And he's like an actor. He's really good. But does it parlay into, this is the surgeon that I want to do a tummy tuck?
Right.
You have to be careful with that image.
It's a fine line.
It really is. And I know he's a brilliant surgeon. He's a very good surgeon. And he does know how to show his before and after photos. So he just have to, who's your audience and who's going to appreciate it. You have to be okay. By the way, are you okay with the negative criticism? I don't know if you get any, but some of the doctors just fold. The minute they get one little criticism, they're out.
I don't really, and I don't know why it is. I don't get a lot of like trolls on my social media saying stuff. Every once in a while, someone will say something like, "Oh, I can't believe you did surgery. She looked fine before. Now she has this big butt," or something. And if someone does that, I'll delete the comment and just block the person, because it's really my page and I can make it whatever I want. And I want it to be a positive place. There's something about the before and after pictures. I mean, the patient trusts you to kind of look after them in a sense. So I think if people are ridiculing the patient online, which, is the most cowardly thing to do it from behind your phone, I kind of feel responsible for the patient. And I just don't think that's appropriate. And I try not to allow it.
Good for you. Yeah. Oh, by the way, are you doing virtual consultations?
I am. Yeah.
Has that been helpful?
It's been good. I did some so long ago that I've already done the virtual pre-op with patients.
Oh, wow. Okay. Great. All right. And do you have, I don't really have anything else. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
The whole COVID thing is just very, very strange. The thing that I don't understand is if all of this is going on now and this is most likely going to come back again in the fall, it's going to be interesting to see what the government does then, because, I can't see them shutting all the businesses down for another 3 months again. Just kind of strange.
It's strange. I have a plastic surgeon friend in Korea, and because I used to speak all over the world, and now I don't go anywhere. I just sit in Sausalito doing nothing, and I'm anxious to get back on a plane. We were talking on Instagram. No, I don't know what, LinkedIn last night or something.
Yeah.
And he was saying in Korea, just if you think it's competitive here, there are 300 plastic surgeons within, like, I can't remember, 3 kilometers or 30 kilometers. I'm not sure what a kilometer is, but needless to say, there are a lot of surgeons in a very little place. So he's a very well-known international bigwig over there. So he goes to China and he gets paid like $100,000 to do lipo with the Chinese. They're very upper scale Chinese over there. So
Right.
he goes to China. Well, he says that gig is over because
Right.
he has to stay 2 weeks quarantined going in and another 2 weeks going out. And he said, now I'm stuck in Korea where, well, with 300 doctors, you can imagine the price problem
Yep.
there. You know,
Big
the
discrepancy.
price.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No.
I mean, so just if that makes anybody feel better, we have it made over here. If I'm glad you're not in Korea.
Well, you stuck in Sausalito. You could be in a worse place.
There are a few over here too. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think in the Bay Area, what are there? 80 something plastic surgeons?
Well, there's 27 or 29 just in my building.
Wow. That's crazy. I have been around. This is my 20th anniversary. And when I first started, just so you know, in San Francisco, there were only 2 plastic surgeons that everybody went to. Yep. I won't say who they are now, but they had it made. But keep in mind, they also had wives. In those days, the wives were the PR people. And the wives took care of all the social activities. So they belonged to all the fundraisers. They were the high society people because this was for high society. It wasn't for the mass.
Yeah.
We didn't even have this before. And that's how they ran it. And you always knew whose facelift they got because they were very distinctive differences in the facelift. And then anyway, so that's what it used to be. And now it's, of course, changed dramatically. But by the way, before we end, I also realized that in my research, I learned that you play the trumpet.
Yeah.
And you used to ski and do lacrosse. And you were also in Michigan for a while. And you have no fears. You have no fears other than white sharks. And right? So personally speaking, you're not afraid of anything? Is that possible?
I like plan ahead, but I kind of think that in order to have fear, you need to have like thought of something and then acknowledged it and then like created some scenario and then like played out that scenario. And I don't really like in college I used to teach these classes on emotional intelligence.
Right.
And to me that like doesn't really make any sense to kind of like think that way.
Yeah. Good.
I mean there's things that like I don't like spiders. I think there's like a black widow maybe in our backyard that I killed the other day. But and there's things that I don't like, but I don't know that I have like specific like a fear of dying or a fear of whatever. Because I mean stuff kind of happens, and you just have to. You can either like get depressed about things and worry, or you can just kind of deal with it and move on.
Great attitude. Do you meditate?
No, I always try, but my mind races too much.
Well, that's the whole point. You meditate to have to sit still and not let it. I mean, I have definitely been doing it a lot this past year because I'm just too type A. I get too hyper, and believe it or not, I don't drink coffee. But I force myself to sit there. It has been very, very helpful. I also during this time that we've had, because we've had a lot more downtime, I personally needed it. I think a lot of us needed to chill for a second and say, what are we doing?
Right.
You see all the memes on Instagram, all of that. And it's so true though. What's important to us, why are we doing what we're doing? And, but meditating, I struggle with it every day, but I know it's good for me.
It's super good. I think it was Headspace when I was taking when I was doing my oral boards, I think for plastic surgery, I would do some of the Headspace meditations. They were really good.
I do them every day. That guy with the English accent. It's my app. It's $95 a year. Although he talks too much, I can't meditate when he's talking all the time. It's like, dude, shut up. So
let me meditate.
Because now you're just filling my head with your head, or your voice. But anyway, do you still play the trumpet, or are you? No, you're done with that. Okay.
Yeah, I finished that I didn't play in college. It was in high school.
Oh, and then I forgot to ask, is there anything you're doing at home to learn or grow or prepare for the restart?
So there's a lot of webinars going on for like pretty much anything you can think of right now. So I've been watching some of the webinars. Last Saturday, we had our the American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons had their annual meeting virtually. That was pretty neat to, continue that education. And then I filmed like a course, I think it's a paid course on like breast augmentation mastectomy with Bill Adams that I think is going to be out this week or next week. I think maybe next week. And then there was another meeting, the World, what was it? It was out of Columbia, the World of Plastic Surgery. It was basically the first kind of global aesthetics meeting on plastic surgery. And I find it just so interesting how differently they do liposuction and some of the body procedures in South America. Mm-hmm. And I really honestly think that they do the procedure 20 times better than we do in the United States. Their training is so much better.
Really?
So it's interesting to see them talk about like gluteal implants, which we don't really do here. People here kind of poo-poo those and talk about how dangerous they are, but the South Americans do everything modestly. It's not ever overdone or exaggerated, kind of like we've come to know some of these procedures here. And it works out really well with low complication rates.
No kidding. So do you feel like you can learn just as well virtually these new techniques as you would, other than the human, talking to everybody in the hallway?
Yeah.
I think that's what conferences are about, the hallway part of it.
Yeah.
Can you learn just as well virtually?
I think kind of. So like most plastic, and I don't know if this is true, maybe I'm going to make a generalization, but like I'm a visual learner. So I can read a book, which is fine. I do really bad listening to stuff. So I have a hard time actually listening to podcasts and things because I just can't retain the information. I need to actually like see things. So I went down to Colombia to spend some time with Alfredo Hoyos, and to actually see the surgeon in their own space doing the operation, in my opinion, is the best way to actually learn something. When I was in Texas, I trained with this one facelift surgeon, Fritz Barton, and that's what he always said. He always said that if you want to learn how to truly do a procedure like the master does it, you need to go see them in their own operating room.
That makes sense, though. And are you planning on doing more of that?
Yeah, as I continue to kind of like focus my practice on different things, I do want to spend more time going and see more people. I just think there's so much to learn from people, even outside the United States, who just are really, really fantastic surgeons.
For sure. All right. I am good to go. Do you have anything else? Any parting thoughts?
No, I think was really excited to be here. This is super interesting. I'm maybe a little nervous, but excited to see how everything kind of progresses forward. But I think, like myself, everyone's looking forward to getting back into work, which I think most people never thought that they would be really excited and ready to get back to work.
For sure. And then how can they find you online?
So you can either go to my website, there's a bunch of contact information there, or you can send an email to davidsiebermd@gmail.com, which is my kind of more personal email address.
Gotcha. And it's spelled Sieber.
That's right.
I kept spelling it Seiber. I had to fix that.
It's a common thing.
I'm very sorry. All right, and that will do it for us. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on board. And everybody, would you do me a favor and give me a review at Beauty and the Biz? I'd really appreciate that. It helps me grow this to reach more surgeons. And then if you've got any feedback or comments for me, please, you can leave me a message on my website at CatherineMaley.com, or you can DM me at Catherine Maley, MBA on Instagram. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again.
We hope you found valuable insight on this episode of Beauty and the Biz. For more episodes, tools, and Catherine's free book, visit www.catherinemaley.com. That's www.catherinemaley.com. And be sure to subscribe to get the latest practice building strategies delivered to you. And don't forget to share this Beauty and the Biz podcast with your staff and colleagues.